Okay, Carl, I will not start with your music, but we want to welcome everyone to KUAW Radio, and now it is time for Wave Your Grace with Mr. Carl Boyd, and here is your host, Carl Boyd.
Thank you so very much, and welcome once again to Wave Your Grades on KUAW.org. Wave Your Grades is a program that asks American students to strive for excellence in honor of our troops. We have very special guests who are encouraging our young people, to whom I refer in the time in which we are living as the most courageous generation. We will talk more about that, but we always attempt to feature guests who are supportive of, encouraging to, and instructive towards America's students in honor of America's troops and veterans. Today is January 22nd, 2022. My very special guest today is Mr. Alan Dubois, who are supportive. What a pleasure. Thank you very much for being with us. Here is Alan Dubois.
I appreciate being invited. It's an honor. And I'm going to count on you making sure I stay on task here and stay in a single direction. I'm 74, and my wife tells me, and I have some medical background that says I'm ADHD, which means I'm random and global and anal. All of them make me entrepreneurial. So I'm going to go in different directions. You stop me if it's too tangential, okay?
Thank you so very, very much. But I'll tell you what, in the conversations that we have had prior to having this privilege on this program, you are so on point, on target as it relates to what we are attempting to do, that I am certain that your responses to what we have to ask will definitely be on point. The first question starts with now, then we will go back and come back up to now. But introducing Alan Dubois, January 22nd, 2022, how would I affix your current title?
I'm president of Network Connectors, Inc., which is a nonprofit in Kansas City with a board and advisors that have gone, many of them past their professional lives, but still have a commitment to the urban core.
Now, when Brother Walker and I were talking about Alan Dubois, he and I did what most people, not most necessarily, but many, many people in the greater Kansas City area would say. Alan Dubois, Genesis Academy, we remember this work and are currently aware of that work. Will you tell us, please, your background with Genesis?
Sure. Came to Kansas City in '76. They were moving a VISTA program out. They needed someone to move it out of Westport Cooperative Mission, and they needed someone to take it over and raise money. And they had a little bit of money. They had 30,000 pledged. We ended after 30 years with 3 million, counting in kind and so forth, and a built-in process to become a charter school. But we designed it specifically for young people who are what we used to at that time call at risk, who had not had an opportunity to get through high school. They were being kept out by the kind of interactions they were having with teachers. Interactions meaning it wasn't just them. And the concept was, how do we keep them in school but not have them challenge what we're telling them? So many of the young people we served had had some time out of school. There's a formula there of what happens if you have more than so many months out of school, what happens next. But we were serving them in a Boys and Girls Club facility that we renovated for I guess that would be 10 million. We raised that with Boys and Girls Club, and we built a school in the Boys and Girls Club on 43rd in Cleveland. So that's where I have met some wonderful community people, like we mentioned, a fellow named Lloyd Daniel, who was, I can actually say is a mentor, and you'll see that's not easy for me to say because the way mentoring operated wasn't always there for everybody. But there it was, African-American leader telling me what I needed to know and making sure I learned, and not always the hard way. And he was instrumental in having me take the right steps to get the right hits in the head to do what I needed to do. So that's enough.
All right. Now, as I mentioned, we will be moving up from background up to network connectors presently, but before, when I think about growing up on the south side of Chicago, I think about things I wanted to do when I was in 8th grade, then through high school. I ended up doing something I didn't expect to do, which was to teach. But if we investigated back into young Alan, looking at all that you are doing now, did you have a clue in your teen years or preteen years that these are the kinds of things you would want to do?
I had life experiences that shaped the way I was thinking. I want to say some things about my education. I remember at 13 thinking, I'm going to die. What am I doing that's not going to, and I could die any day. What am I doing that's going to make a difference? And I spent a lot of time on athletic teams, significant recognition in high school and college for athletic activities, not bad for someone who was not going to get a scholarship. But that got me, I think, because of the school I was in, that got the attention of law school. I think they looked at that resume with my grades in college and said, well, look, he can work hard. So I got into law school, and then I got into master's in education. But the reality was I wanted to make a difference. And I learned the most from a program in Northern Virginia, Second Chance program, where I watched the young people interacting. It was an alternative school, and I was learning from them every day in the class. And they gave me a chance to develop that class into what became a way of orienting me to the community and also the community to the opportunities they had to try different things they were locked out of or hadn't been aware of. And so that started back in Washington, D.C. And then I got a chance to move to Colorado. And then the reality is I moved back here, halfway home, and there it was sitting there. A lot of my life, I think, I didn't plan. I just stepped in the hole, and it was right there when I needed it.
Well, your stepping in the hole caused a whole population to benefit, and we appreciate that so very, very much. Let me remind those who are with us that Alan Dubois, our very special guest on Wave Your Grades, KUAW.org, is remembered so well forever in the greater Kansas City area for founding Genesis Academy at the Boys and Girls Club, 43rd near Cleveland Avenue, and continues in public service. Brother Dubois, we said that we would come up to the time that we are in now as you continue your public service. So in essence, as you work with network connectors, if you would once again repeat what it does and a little bit about those with whom you work.
May I put that just on a 1 minute hold?
Yes.
I owe it to the staff of Genesis over 30 years, predominantly African American. And what they taught me, to tell everyone listening, we were a national school of excellence in 1991. We raised our own money. We competed in a system that did not favor independent nonprofit schools, and we still got in. And they earned that. We were doing things with radio and with experiential learning that we are so proud of. And so in that whole process, I got pretty much focused and tied in for 30 years raising, 2 years raising money. I got out of that. I needed to recoup. I bought a chocolate lab, and together we became partners. She was my canine partner. I trained her, and she's still here. She's struggling a little bit, but she's still here. She's older. But we were canine partners, and that dog, Jamie, taught me what it meant to be a friend. And so both those experiences led me to where we are now. Network connectors. As I looked about leaving Genesis, as I looked at why I thought it was okay, I wanted enough energy to work on something, although it was not spoken, I didn't speak out about it, to work on something that wasn't just something a white man with a law degree could do. All right, I could raise money, I could reach across both sides of truth. If I had folks like Lloyd and others who could introduce me and we could show what we could do. What I had was an opportunity that many of the young leaders African American leaders, particularly where I was, did not have that opportunity. They were not. When we United Way Agency, I was president of a couple of years of the Federation of United Way Agencies. There may have been 3 African American CEOs out of 200, and so there was something wrong. I didn't know what it was. I really did not. I didn't understand how it worked. I just kept working hard, and I stopped, trained Jamie, and as I did that, I watched and started thinking about what it was that I was able to do and why I was able to do it and how the system worked. So we developed a system along with former African American and white neighborhood community leaders and nonprofit United Way agencies. We developed a process that we thought made sense. If you're going to share something, here's how you do it. And so this is what we are now attracting the attention of foundations and neighborhood organizations with. The concept is, it's the story. It's a storytelling. And with the story being told, today we're able to put that online. We have a platform that's been developed by someone in the business community for 40 years. Our approach has 4 components. A storytelling by emerging nonprofit leaders, a story writing by a new generation of writers, an IT platform customized from Salesforce, and a data collection system, and finally a seasoned leader networking. So what you have in the process of the human relationship side, young leader having an opportunity to introduce themselves to a seasoned leader. We have an internal process where the seasoned leaders, we have 5 or 10 or 15, certainly it just blows out because they're still around, but not doing anything. We can have them connect with their peers. They read internally the story of this young leader, what they're trying to do, why they're trying to do it, how successful they've been. And it's not about raising money, it's about who else do you know who's done this? And so we then connect that young leader based on a belief that they have the courage and commitment to someone who's old and says, okay, I can put an hour in and I'll give you all I got. And that means a lot of relationships that folks who are younger, and we don't say younger necessarily, because emerging could be 50, emerging could be 20. It's about you don't have, they're aspirants, you don't have all that you need to do, the much needed connections aren't there. So I think a way of comparing this to traditional mentoring, which is a question I would raise if I was listening to me, is a traditional mentorship program stresses one-on-one assistance over a specific period of time, period. What Network Connectors does is stress one-to-many connections for guidance in real time. Because we can go online, because we can keep the story private, because that story can be read by folks who understand the issues and can, old folks can see someone coming up and listen to someone talk for an hour, and they're going to know who you are because they have a lot of practice. So we're going to put these young leaders in a place where their brilliance can be seen and felt. And hopefully they'll go to that young man, will go to that our woman will go to that season leader. And if a coaching, mentoring relationship exists or is going to exist, it's going to be that young person who decides. But from that meeting, he then connects with the people in the community he has no idea even exist. They don't know he's there or she's there, and he doesn't know they're there. So we call it network connectors, and I hope that's pretty clear.
As a matter of fact, what you make me mindful of is oftentimes we can identify a problem. As a matter of fact, we might even be able to identify a problem and name a solution, but we don't always have access to those who are the problem solvers. And it sounds to me like this is your intent and indeed your reality.
Okay, so I struggle a little bit on getting a little angry sometimes. Those that are invested, so invested in, you need to listen to me, even though I have no idea where you've been, how you've struggled. What I have is all this resource, all this wealth. Those of us who have to understand who the young person is and what the neighborhood's about, may not be the business community. They may not at first. They may not be a national nonprofit. They may be a faith-based or neighborhood organization. And in Kansas City, we could do a lot to help those neighborhood organizations, C4s, help those neighborhood organizations know more about what's available to them. We have a young icon. I'm sure, I don't want to say she's how old she is, but she's just a gem. Jesse Jefferson with I can't think. I'm dropping the name of her nonprofit. But the important thing, Jesse's been on the board, and we're making connections. And her story's just been recorded, written up, and we're now going to do videos. So it's going to be 10. What we have to do for the foundations. The foundations, fortunately, see all that's going on around them and saying, let's try something new. So Kaufman Foundation has funded a $50,000 grant to have us prove what we're saying is going to work. And everybody I talked to who's a nonprofit says, well, yeah, that's going to work because that's what I'm doing. And then everybody who's a neighborhood organization said, they don't talk to us. We don't get any talk from the nonprofits. They're too busy. And when they get the money, they may not even give it to us. If they're even going to partner with us, they don't even know we're here. And so we're going to change that if we can. We're going to have 10 neighborhood nonprofit type organizations, but not national. We're going to have faith-based young leaders. We're going to follow them up with what they need, get the story written, get it online. We're going to have that story read to some very connected, seasoned leaders. They're going to connect with their connections without leaving their house. We're going to do the same thing we're doing right now. We're going to Zoom them, and then we're going to see how much.
Now, let me say to you that you're being as solutions oriented as you are. For me, from my way of thinking, you are the perfect guest for Wave Your Grades, because we are encouraging young people to strive for excellence in honor of our troops, honor our military as they sacrifice. And the whole idea of Wave Your Grades is not only to encourage them, but to say to them, and here's how you gain access to those older who can help you be successful. I would like to pause here for a moment and get you to give those who are with us contact information for Alan Dubois. Okay. Then I'm going to come back to that because you said something to me before the program began that I want to remind you of. But first, please, contact information.
All right. We have just established a relationship with John McGraw's shop over on 31st Street, which is called Nonprofit Village. And I don't have that number in front of me right now, but I can give you my email address. And both email addresses and that number can be contacted. My email address is mietta, 2a, the number 2a, at gmail.com. gmail.com. I'm going to give you, I'm going to give the, come on now. I'm looking at my phone right now. I signed a document. We're going to have our, here it is. We're going to have our, a virtual office manager in 10 days because things are popping. So the person over there right now, and there'll be another name later, is Megan at 31west31.org. MEHGAN at 31west31.org. Now, she will transfer it over to Janice Davis, who we just asked to come forward and do our connecting. We just signed a contract with Buttonwood Financial, that's John's group. Good man, he's helping. Now, we need that connection because things are flying. And so I have to say something though, because I like playing with words. When you say waive your grades, I thought of grades meaning more than just academic letters. I thought of it meaning, where have you come from? How have you gotten here? How are you going to stay? How are you going to continue to make a difference? And I changed it into waive what you have and can achieve. If you follow your heart, you never know. And I think that you never know is so true. The last two big connections we've made to PBS and Guadalupe were on phone calls that could not necessarily have been made. All of a sudden, I said, I got to do this. I promised I'd call. We took 3 years to put this together. And when they heard, they said, let's talk. And so you just never know what's going to happen when people who have authenticity are trusted. So we've got 3 foundations. I would mention their names. Mr. Kaufman, and then there's Health Forward, who's looking at it. That's not a commitment of money yet or resources. And then there's Hallmark. And then we've got the different folks over at Guadalupe and CCON, Calvary Community Outreach Network. We've got a wonderful senior reporter named Joe Robertson and a platform developer named Steve Stava, and PBS, KCPT, Nick Haynes. Kudos to Nick. He came and listened. He said, I can do this. And so we're waiting to see right now. We have a big open house at Guadalupe, sort of dinner for folks who are interested in contributing, young people, emerging leaders, as well as seasoned leaders, and making this part of community development activities at Guadalupe and also on the east side with Calvary. But we're making this a youth leadership effort with youth involved in the planning and carrying out of our objectives.
This is so good. And as a matter of fact, you already went to what I was going to remind you of when we talk about waive your grades. We were looking forward last year to an end of the school year waive your grades parade. And it was going to culminate at Central High School. And we're asking students to waive their grades, waive their leadership, waive their community service, waive their involvement. And of course, the pandemic prevented our having that. But I would like to, and I pray that I'm not imposing upon you when I say this, but I would like for you to repeat what you said about waive your grades. I thought it was just so poignant and captures what we are attempting to do. You said about waive your grades, exactly what again?
Okay. So I don't forget, let me just do one thing first. I didn't mention Beto Lopez and Shannon Spradling, 2 young leaders that are seasoned, that are going to help us over at Guadalupe. But there's so many others I didn't mention as well. But okay, forgive me all. So if waive your grades, to me, it was about where you've come from at the level of which you are able to help others. And so waive your grades what you have and can achieve. Wave what you can and have achieved instead of saying great. Wave what you have and can achieve. If you follow your heart, you never know.
Thank you. Thank you so very, very much, Alan Dubois, Network Connectors. How indeed can those who are in need of resources avail themselves? And how can supporters do more than just talk about it or wave the flag, if you will? So before we are done talking with each other, I will be asking for contact information ongoing. Let me say to Alan Dubois that at the beginning of the program, you were introduced to Louis George Walker,
Yes.
producer of our Wave Your Grades program. But let me tell you how special that is, Brother Dubois. He is the founder of KUAW.org. So he does not only allow us to have his services producing this 1 hour program on a Saturday, but he's responsible for KUAW.org 24/7, a part of the Black Family Technology Awareness Association, which is a nonprofit that emphasizes technology, certainly closing the digital gap. But while I'm doing this, let me ask Louis George Walker, as he gives information to Alan Dubois, then I will ask for your reaction to this. Brother Walker, will you help us, please?
All right. Hey, Carl, how are you doing today?
Appreciate you.
All right. Want to make sure that everybody knows how to get in touch with us. And one of the things that if you want to listen to KUAW Radio, this broadcast now or any past broadcast, you can check us out on Facebook, KUAW-radio. That's KUAW-radio. On Facebook, it is KUAW space radio. And on Twitter, it is KUAW_radio. So you can pick up this broadcast, and you can also listen to some of the archived broadcasts there. We also have a 24-hour broadcast that goes on, and that is, wait a minute. Yeah, that is on the online radio box, on mytuner.com, on TuneIn, on Radio Garden, and at our website, www.kuaw.org. We broadcast live shows on Facebook, YouTube, but we also have syndicated shows and entertainment on our audio side, which we got smooth jazz, we've got blues time in the city, and a few other great shows that you can listen to. So we hope that everyone would be listening to KUAW Radio. Tell your friends about it. Like and share this page. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Louis George Walker. Alan Dubois, any questions and or comments towards Louis?
Well, I was wondering if it would be helpful. I know I give you Megan's email, and you got my email, but there's a gentleman over at PBS who I think would just be tickled to get a connection with Mr. Walker. His name is Nick Haynes. I can give you my email, his email address.
Okay.
Nick Haynes. It's called N Haynes, NHAINES at Kansas City, all one word, KansasCityPBS.org. They are KCPT. They've started to use PBS in town here as well. Nick Haynes at KansasCityPBS.org. Nick was looking at ways that he can connect. Nick is an innovator. He would find ways to help, I think, connect with Mr. George. And the thing could be that something comes out of an email that he had never thought they could do because they don't have that initial thought or connection. So that's just to maybe push the button on Nick. It's not hard. He jumps quick.
I may reach out to him.
Okay. All right.
Thank you.
All right.
Outstanding. Brother Alan Dubois, as we look back and bring ourselves up to this time, you made me mindful of something when you used the term at risk, because it sounded like, because you don't use the term at risk. And I wanted to find out in your reflections of what we were saying, quote, back then, unquote, what you were alluding to.
I think it was a blanket acceptance of the status quo without true awareness. Even though I was inside the community, it evolved. I didn't go in there with that awareness. I just didn't like, I was angry because what's unfair to anyone is unfair to me. What's unjust to anyone in our community is unjust to me. I had no choice of whether I was white, black, or yellow. And so that's where opportunity came for all came. Now, the process is so different in my head about how I look at folks that are turning a blind eye to what they have because they're afraid to lose what they have, to not see the injustice, the discrimination, the differences are caused by skin color. That scares me about me. That scares me. And I'm not even a black man.
It would be interesting to those who are with us this afternoon. It's certainly interesting to me as I contemplate all of the war stories I could offer, and Brother Lewis Walker and I have talked about it over and over again, as we have had the Black experience from birth until now in the United States of America. But it would be interesting to find out how a white gentleman advocating in behalf, not just of Blacks as a minority, but all of those who are struggling for equality, what are some of the challenges you have faced, had to overcome, and perhaps still face?
This is a question to me now?
Yes, sir.
All right. Okay, we talked about it a little bit before. I don't think I said it, like you say, I don't think I said it before. In the whole process of coming to town, no one knew me. Not one person knew me. My wife knew one person. So then I just started working together, trying to build relationships. And Lloyd said to me, Alan, there's some folks who are going to trust you when they see you. They want to see change. There are some folks who are going to want to see what you're able to do before they trust you. And there are some folks who will never trust you. And we talked about it. I think it wasn't on air, but if it was, and that's a statement out of Meatloaf, which is, hey, 2 out of 3 ain't bad.
Now, as you assess the landscape.
Yeah. Now, is it changing? I would like to think so. But you've got to have people willing to be honest with themselves about why they're doing things. And the idea of people who are scared and trying to hold on to power or create power or sustain inequity so that their power doesn't get lost somehow, I don't understand that, except for it's just they're afraid. And we got to have the right people in place to help them understand that we got to grow together, not fight each other. And challenging those in my own family who want to say, this isn't going to be not close, but distance folks through marriage, and this has got to be a certain way. I see it's a heart problem. I think it's a fear issue. I think it's we have the right people in place. Folks got to know more about folks like you and other community leaders who can explain to them. Maybe we go on a tour there and talk a little bit around the city, talk a little bit about it. But I think Kansas City is a very open city, and we have an African-American mayor. But when you go further south, it's challenging that you don't want to, you see good people. You have people who help me find my dog when they're lost in the Ozark Mountains. But you know they've got certain ways they think. There needs to be a conversation because they may be good at heart, but they don't see the whole picture. If you can trust a dog and love a dog, I think that's a helpful thing.
Yes.
I think that could be, maybe we're talking about taking the dogs on the road and talking about how we need to trust each other. It's a very deep fear, I think, that you have, that you can't get what you think you deserved or haven't gotten it. It goes beyond just race. It goes beyond, it's economic, it's political. We need some better thinkers than me.
Well, now, I will tell you, as a matter of fact, you and I are in agreement as it relates to the creation of better thinkers, those who are younger than we. In his poem, The Prophet, Khalil Gibran has a statement, life travels not backwards. And when I think of that, I think that means that those who come after us should be better than we. And I have, and I will continue to refer to today's young people. I'm talking about pre-K through 12. I am referring to them as America's most courageous generation. Now, when I say that, what I am suggesting is, I was born in 1942. This is 2022. And I am believing that I have not seen such divisiveness and so many different things going on simultaneously as I am seeing now. But at my age, the expectation is those who follow us will be the ones who have to address and solve these problems. I am wondering if Alan Dubois, with all that you have seen and all that you are involved in, has reason to be optimistic where young people of today are concerned.
Yes. All right. I want to tell you a little bit about Seacon Eric Williams quickly. We met because Genesis at the time had a radio broadcast studio, and we were broadcasting on two shows, AM and FM. Eric Williams has taken that a little further. He has a recording studio, and what he sees is how he's going to get even young people, elementary school, able to record stories. Genesis never did a good job of recording oral histories, but what Eric wants to do is, within this concept that we're now promoting as network connectors, there's seasoned leaders, emerging leaders, new generation writers, and the fourth component is having those young people who can write and record on tape in his own shop the stories that they hear when they shadow those three groups. They can shadow a seasoned leader, they can shadow an emerging leader, they can talk to a journalist. And so he is putting together a program concept that gets that information straight to our youngest leaders in a way that closes the circle. And that's what's exciting. We haven't even got into that. And that's exciting because what you have is a way for him to say, this is more than just today. This is going on further. And there's so much we have to develop. We have to get it up. We meet over at Guadalupe in late February. Eric and Beto Lopez are going to have a dinner. Young community leaders are going to be invited. If you wanted to know how that's going to work, we just decided, I think you can call Eric Seacon, whose number, I think you need to just look it up. Calvary Community Outreach Network is an outreach nonprofit implementing programs that the Calvary Church there, he's minister there as well, see that the young people need and the families need, a lot of it related to COVID. So Eric's got the right track. He's got the right people with him. So many of the people who are so caught in trying to just do what they know works in the past may not see the opportunity to create something new. He already works on fumes. I tell him he's working on fumes, and he laughs. But he's going to do something different in this town, along with Beto Lopez at Guadalupe. And so I encourage you to call either of those two leaders of color. Of course, certainly Guadalupe is Latino, and you can look that number up. I don't have it right away, but those two leaders are saying we need to work together. So that is special.
Alan Dubois, and I am looking at mietta2a@gmail.com, and that is mietta2a @gmail.com.
Yes. And I can give you another email if you want Eric's email, because he's the implementer on future coming up. We've got to get this stuff established and get it going. It's changed significantly. It's changed from an idea of media marketing to the idea of asking foundations to help us plan it, but without the deep commitment of the community. And now we're moving into, okay, let's ask the young people to help us do this as we plan it. Eric Williams' number, his email number is ccon2940@gmail.com. Reverend Eric Williams, Calvary Community Outreach Network, at 29th and Holmes.
And as we will repeat that, we also have Megan, spelled MEHGAN,
Yes.
at 31west31.org.
That's correct. That's correct.
Eric Williams, CCON2940 @gmail.com.
Now, I could also give you Mr. Lopez's email address. I don't want to put too much on him, but I'll maybe give it to you. It's B as in boy, LOPEZ, B Lopez, at GuadalupeCenters.org. B as in boy, LOP Lopez, EZ, at GuadalupeCenters.org.
And that is centers, plural.
Yes.
Hey, have you found that the pandemic presents access challenges?
Yeah, and it's emotional. If there's no pandemic, people would be saying, "This isn't this wonderful? It's enhancing our communication." But it's all the stuff that affects the mental of wanting to take risks, emotional take risks. I also think, though, if we hadn't got hit with the pandemic and hadn't been more aware of really what was happening with the discrepancy and injustice, racial discrimination as a result of what happened in the last year, 2 years, and the inability for a concept to really serve the whole community. If you develop a mentoring program and only a few have access to it, that's not a community solution. If you develop a program that says, you get your stuff online here and we'll see what we can do, and it asks the young person to be more self-reliant, that emerging leader, be more self-reliant. We're not going to hand you $50,000 every year because you've written a good proposal. We're going to ask you to go develop the strategies and implement those strategies as you meet seasoned leaders who can help you do it. The idea that a young leader is going to take money without changing. So often, my experience over 40 years, 32 years directly raising money, I was never asked, what are you doing to develop your strategies to make connections? How are you evolving? It was always, here's what you get this year, or you're not getting that this year. I think we need to push. I think we need to push and challenge ourselves with concepts that create self-reliant young leaders. But there's got to be those that got to hear that the old way is not the new way. It has to change.
If Alan Dubois and Carl Boyd continue to talk, someone who is viewing us is going to guess our age. But I go back to another old cliche. It is one thing to give a person fish, and it's another to teach them how to fish. And I am hearing a lot in teaching how to fish in what you are presenting.
I appreciate that. I think that was always about we're not doing the best for our young people or our seniors. So many seniors say, well, I can't mentor. I don't have enough time. I don't want to leave the house. It's not safe. We have a situation now with websites and online and Zooming where you can do a lot. You can see who that young person is in an hour and listen to them talk and see if you want to be involved. And I think that's more about why seniors can want to help, why someone who's been someone over 70 wants to get involved with someone who may not be that much younger, but likely is going to be in their 30s. It's about what do I know? And just having that faith. My experience was we started with $13,000. My experience was every time someone said, write it up, or show me this, or I want to come over, that gave me hope. It gave me a sense of doing the right thing, of self-reliance, that I can keep doing this. That was critical to being able to be. We were 15 years. Okay, we were 15 years without enough money in the bank to make payroll the next month.
My Lord.
Then we were 30 years, another 15 years where we could make payroll, but we weren't going to get past that quarter. And so it really fit really nicely into my ADHD, and and my compulsiveness. Those two things together, I think, emotionally made it possible for me to feel good every day about what we were doing. And then those people, yeah.
This is something that's very interesting to me. Let me remind those who are with us. This is Wave Your Grades on KUAW.org. My name is Carl Boyd. I'm your host. We are very honored to have as special guest today, Alan Dubois, and resource development for community-based nonprofits. And Brother Dubois, you mentioned something more than once, so I need you to help us with it, and that is what we refer to as attention deficit hyperactive disorder. And as we talk about things going on today, we're certainly talking about mental health, but would you help us with that from your point of view in 2022?
I'm getting older with more. I'm enjoying getting older, knowing that I have the energy. There's a prescription I have as well, to keep doing what I'm doing and not have to make payroll. Making payroll for families was always a stress, but I am enjoying what I'm doing. I'm going to be able to hand it off. I can walk away from it. But the process of me not doing something like this, it relieves stress that I haven't quit. It relieves stress that there's something I can do. In some cases, just having a conversation with some of the folks that are in your audience, our audience, they're going to see all kinds of ways this can be beneficial, and they don't have to get out of their house either. So we don't know all the answers, but I think having something that brings purpose to your life or reinforces your life goals, seeing with your heart, it may have nothing to do with emerging leaders. It may be how you help that dog kennel down the street where the dogs are getting picked up and put to death. It's following your heart. It's not. Okay, here it is. I was told this the other day by a young woman. She says, I'm a big Clint Eastwood fan, and I got a quote which is, when one of his films he is asked about, and he says, and this quote was, the question was, how do you keep going? And he says, well, I get up, I put my pants on, I put my boots on, I put my shirt on, and I don't let old get in.
Outstanding. I think that Clint Eastwood might appreciate it if Alan Dubois said, go ahead, you made my day. But now, as we are coming close to the end of this particular interview, praying that we will have this opportunity again, let me ask the scope of what you do. The contacts that we have are indeed local. If someone beyond our confines was interested, how far do you reach?
Okay. I have a friend who's across the country, who's in New York. He's a friend of Policy Link that we've let them know what we're working on. If someone's so inspired, if Michael's listening to this, Michael, we've made progress. I do not think that this has to be done by the local organization in Kansas City, by us. This is a concept, I think, that applies, that anybody with local leadership could look at developing. It's replicable. What we're doing now is testing with prototype with Kaufman. And if this is successful, I think then we can say, here's what we were able to do. And that may be helpful. So if someone's in another city and they're saying, what are you doing that I can repeat or share? There's certainly information we can share, but it's evolving. The biggest joy we have right now is that Nick Haynes over at PBS has said, yeah, we can do this. And that may be a wonderful connection to others in the community. That's what we needed. That was the final step to get that partnership. So I'd be happy to talk to anybody. There's very talented people that are better team members in their skill sets. I can talk. There's other people like Steve Stava, and the fellow who developed our platform, and both the leadership people over at Kaufman, at CCON and Guadalupe. If you have a particular interest in speaking to the community or the foundation, certainly our program officer over at maybe they may not want to be bothered. You may call me and I'll see if they want to be bothered, because they're swamped. So let me do that.
I understand, but I think that, oh, by the way, I wanted to say while you were talking, as it relates to personally overcoming ongoing challenges, that I guess I'm full of cliches today, but one of the things that you and I, having an education background, say probably frequently is we learn more by example than we do by instruction. And your example is so stark, it is so revealing, but it is so real that we have to be inspired and instructed by your having to deal with what you do and doing it so well. So I have to say profound thank you to Alan Dubois for being as transparent as you are and as instructive as benefits those of us who are exposed to you. And thank you for that.
Thank you. I'm inspired by our team. I was just telling my wife yesterday what good people we have, that committed and talented. I'm blessed that our team now. I'm trying to earn this team. I got to stay in front, or they're gonna get me.
Absolutely. Well, let me say that it sounds like you might be broaching what I was going to ask of you, in as much as we're at the end of the program. I want to make sure that I don't miss something that you think is important, that our listeners hear, that our viewers see. So, is there something in closing that is important for you to communicate?
I just I appreciate the flexibility of people that are swamped trying to do the right thing, looking at an innovation, at a change in how we do things. That's been the hardest thing. It's been 4 years trying to say what all nonprofits will talk about together, say what we really need to do is help the young leader, the emerging leader, make connections, develop self-reliance. It's not about the money, it's about developing those skills. I guess the best way to say it is I had a fellow come in from one of the major public service utilities. That's what utilities, 40 years ago. And we were sitting in the old Blessed Sacrament Church. We hadn't gone over to the Boys and Girls Club. And he came in, he started talking to me in my office. And he was saying, you can do this, you can do this. I'll try to get you some money. I need these numbers. I said, oh, okay, I'll do that. I'm not sure I have them. He said, oh, well, you can go get them from your CFO. And I said, what's a CFO? So these emerging leaders, it's not about what they have in their heads about terminology. It's about the courage and commitment they have to their own neighborhood.
Well, let me indicate to you that we are so pleased, indeed honored, that you joined us on Wave Your Grades. And my prayer is that you will allow us to invite you back sometime.
Oh, yeah, sure.
Well,
I like seeing Mr. Walker too. I like seeing both of you.
Well, thank you very, very much, Brother Walker. Anything on your mind before we sign off? All right.
You're good.
Oh, I should say, if he can still hear us, I should say he knows his assignment to find that missing person.
Right.
All right. Okay.
All right.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And let me introduce to you my close. And this is something that I do at the end of every program, but I have 366 morning messages for every day of the year for students in school. And as we say, thank you to Alan Dubois, thank you, Louis George Walker, I will close with my morning message for January 22nd. It goes like this, Brother Dubois. To students across the USA, your Stoots for Boots message for this day, January 22nd. You can make America's warriors as proud of American students as American students are of them. January 22nd, you can make America's warriors as proud of American students as American students are of them. Stoots for Boots, American students striving for excellence in honor of our troops. Stoots stands for Students Theater of Operations, the school. My name is Carl Boyd. Gracious God and wonderful Wanda, I'm on my way home.